All right, to help you out with numbers 7, 8, and 9, we're looking at this question. What is the domain, range, and asymptote of the exponential function shown? I've got 3 examples here. We're going to go through all 3. The domain is always extremely simple. Again, it's always going to be all real numbers every single time. Domain is always going to be all real numbers. Now the range and asymptote are pretty simple. I'm going to go do the asymptote first. So the asymptote, it's based on this number here at the end. So there usually will be a number at the end, but sometimes there won't be. That number at the end tells you what the asymptote is. It also tells you what the range is. So the asymptote here is y equals whatever that number is. So that's -1, so we put -1. Now the range is very similar to that, but there's just one more thing you have to look at. The range is y is either going to be greater than or less than, and then whatever that number is, so as well, -1. But to figure out if that's going to be a greater than sign or less than sign, you have to look at the number out in front, and you have to see if that's a positive or a negative number. This is a positive number, so this is going to be greater than. Okay, so if that number right there is a positive, it's going to be a greater than symbol. And that's all you have to do right there. That's all you have to do. So let's look at a couple more examples here. Again, for the next example, the domain, always all real numbers. Every single time, people. All real numbers. Then we look at the asymptote. Again, we look at that number at the end. So that's a +2. So the asymptote is going to be y equals 2, because that's what it is, a +2. That's how we write +2. And then the range is also going to be y, and then I'll put 2 right there. We got to figure out, is that going to be greater than or less than? Remember, we look at the number in front of in the very front here, is that 1/4 a positive or negative? And 1/4 is a positive, so it's going to be greater than. So it's going to be greater than. Now I want you to see kind of what a range with a less than sign looks like. So I wrote one more here down. Again, domain, always all real numbers every single time for exponentials. The asymptote, you look at that number in the very back. So right here, that -11. So the asymptote is y equals -11. And last but not least, the range. Remember, the range is the same thing. It's whatever that is. It's a great thing about the asymptote and the range. If you know one, you know the other. But you got to figure out, okay, is that a less than or greater than sign? So we look at the number up front, and that's a -5. You see the negative there. So a negative means less than. A negative means less than. So you put less than. Y is less than -11. Hopefully that helped. Again, that should help you out with numbers 7, 8, and 9.